Greg's not really feeling like doing anything today, but I feel like I say that every time that I come on here. And, you know, maybe we just need to accept that this is his natural state. He's a little bit upset. We slept in this morning. Hello. And tomorrow we're starting our month-long walkathon, which we're fundraising for guide dogs for. So he's... Where are you going? You're looking at yourself in the mirror? So he's not really that excited about that, honestly. He's got to walk 60 kilometres on these little stumps. Yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting. Oh, Greggy, okay. So we're here doing this live stream again. I don't really have a plan, if I'm honest, for what we're going to talk about this time. I really need to start planning these a little better, I think. Like maybe we could have themed ones. Or maybe I'll just start reading from books aloud. I don't really know. But today I'm drinking Tea Republic's Newton ginger biscuit tea, which is nice. I've got my little fancy teacup, which was a Tea in the Ton gift, so thank you. Hello, yeah. Imagine you could have your own tea if you weren't so lazy. No? Okay, well. Jesus. I don't really have a plan for this. I also have a Red Bull here because I'm a beverage goblin and I can't have like just one beverage. I have to roll up, like even when I go to work, I've got to roll up with 15 different beverages to get me through the day, not including water. That's just how I am. I've gotten into this habit, I call it getting a little drink treat at lunch, which basically just means I could go and get myself a drink. Oh, where are you putting that foot? That's air there. Don't get a corgi, man. Their little legs are so short and useless. They literally can't do anything. Okay. Okay, no, that's fine. I guess I'll run through some questions that we have here. Hope everyone's having a good day. Again, I'm trying to do this on my iPad, so I hope I don't get disconnected like I did last time. We'll see. It took me a long time to figure out how to close a live stream when you're not like currently in the live stream. It's not as easy as it seems like it would be. Let's get up some questions before we start. Haven't really been up to much recently. Oh, Greg. Oh my God. Haven't really gotten up to much recently. Went to see the new Barbie movie. It was maybe the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I don't really have much to add there. I made some shoes that I'm going to wear to this Taylor Swift concert, which is very exciting because, you know, I needed to do that a whole 7 months ahead. And now, like, honestly, I think I'm behind schedule making these friendship bracelets. I don't know when I'm going to have time to do that. Oh, God. When am I ever going to have the time? Like, there's just so much on. But I've been off work the last 2 weeks. I had, like, a little holiday. I didn't go anywhere or do anything. I just no longer wanted to be at work. A question in the chat that I can't see. Let me answer this one really quickly. Will you be publishing the Actors AU? Which one was that? I know that sounds awful. Oh, okay, yes, yeah, the one where they were like co-stars in a secret relationship, right? Yeah. Maybe. It's not very high up my docket Greg, it's not very high up my docket if I am gonna post it. So it's maybe like third or fourth in line at the moment. I've got quite a few on my radar to go through at the moment. Yes, that one. Okay, I'm glad we're talking about the right one. I've got quite a few on my list to get through at the moment, so I'm not too sure. I know I have a couple of questions this month about upcoming stories, so we'll run through that in a little bit, but it's probably not one that I'm like immediately working on. There also seems to be a huge misconception that I'm like writing these stories ahead of time. So to give you a rough overview, I finished the update to my I finished the update to my Titanic AU yesterday about 35 seconds before I posted it. Like there's no filter here. We're just writing it at the time. I should be a planner, but I'm not. I wish I was. I'm trying to be a planner girly, but it's just not really going for me at the moment. Do you want to hop down then? Or are you going to continue to get in the way mercilessly? And now the cat's scratching at the door. This is going so well already. Okay, let me get up some questions, which again, could I have done this ahead of time? Absolutely. Did I? No. My dad's messaging me. Hi to him if he ever finds these videos, though I hope he doesn't, because I think I'd have to explain to him what a DILF is, and I don't really feel like you should ever have to do that with your own father. Just don't. That's my place in life, you know. I am wearing this Mary, he's a harlot t-shirt that I made myself on my cricket. Obsessed with that. I convinced my sister to go halves with me on a cricket, and I left it at her house last week, and I'm feeling the sting of no longer having it in my possession already. Very harsh. Like, how am I supposed to just make up ridiculous things? I'm just supposed to not? Is this how everyone else is living? Like, brutal. Okay, let's get started for reals. Are you gonna get down or just continue to... No, yeah, why would you? No one at me about the size of this Red Bull can. It is only 473 mils. I don't know what that is in the imperial system because metric is far superior, but anyway. So, sunscreen first, I guess, even though I'm not planning to go anywhere today. It's just a habit. Maybe someone on here can tell me. And you, like, I know a lot of people say you are, but really what's the difference? If you don't use a primer and sunscreen, like, what's the difference? I don't think I've ever used a primer that I've been like, oh, stunning. I feel like I really need that in my life, you know? I feel like we're all just using it at this point because everyone's like, and now a primer. And we're like, ah, yes, the primer that we definitely all know what it does. You're going to have to get down. You're being too much of a nuisance today. Wave goodbye to everyone. Bye. Okay. So, where was I? I'm going through some questions. Okay. You can all see my phone case now. It's got Donald Duck on it. Very exciting. Yep. It's a Case-Defy one. Sponsor me. So, tea in the time. Yeah. How's your morning been? You know what? Do you have a lot on? No. It's Sunday morning, and I pretty much never like plan anything to do on a Sunday because I just genuinely hate doing anything on a Sunday, mostly because I usually have to go back to work on the Monday, obviously, and I just like to have a calm and relaxing day prior to that, and I feel like that's okay, you know? So no, I don't actually have anything on today at all. I'm waiting for my groceries to get delivered because I live approximately 3 minutes from the grocery store, and I'm like, oh, I just couldn't possibly go out and do that. Like, stand in the store? No way. I just couldn't possibly be doing that. I'm just going to cover up some little redness that we've got there. And today, I think instead of using Armani foundation, I'm going to use this Pat McGrath one that's been sitting sadly very neglected. It used to be my favourite one, but it's really smelly, and I can't justify it. Also, Sephora no longer carries my shade in Australia, so I have to order it from the Pat McGrath website, which is just like such a hassle. Like, what? Then it has to come all the way from the UK, I think, or the US to Australia, so that's like another 14 business days minimum. Before, so like, and a lot of the time you know what it's like, you're using foundation and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't have any foundation, and it's just a disaster. And then you have to show up to work basically using a full face of concealer. Courtney, if you're watching, you know what I mean. Courtney is my assistant at work, and the two of us, between us, have shown up quite a few times essentially just wearing a blended face of concealer because we've run out of foundation. But no, I don't have a lot on. This morning I slept in and then I watched the F1 sprint race, which is happening in Belgium. This weekend, F1's in Belgium. It was okay. It was okay. I just want to get this out there. In my opinion, it doesn't matter at all, but Lewis Hamilton should not have got a penalty. In my opinion, again, does not matter. But no, I don't think he should have. I mean, I don't really mind because then, like, Ferrari got promoted, but at the same time, you know. Okay, so no, I don't have a lot on. I will wait. My groceries will get delivered, and then I'm going to cook a roast this afternoon, which is going to be exciting, you know, just for me and the dog and cat. And then I will, yeah, watch more F1. I need to find something. If anyone has any, like, good Netflix or any streaming things, though Australia has a lot of streaming channels that other countries don't have, like Binge and Stan, for example. But if you, which is Stan, coincidentally, is where Claudia Jessie got nominated for a Logie, which is basically being, like, nominated for, I wouldn't honestly even say it's as prestigious as getting nominated for an Emmy. It's like getting nominated for a daytime Emmy. But if we do a quick, like, fun fact, so once upon a time, as we all know, Margot Robbie, she's a great Australian expat, or export, I guess, she's still Australian. So she was once upon a time on a, like a soap opera in Australia, Lovesick. Yeah, I think I started that and I never finished it for some reason and I can't remember why. So Margot Robbie, when she, like, first started her career, she was on an Australian soap opera called Neighbours. It's very famous in Australia. And Kylie Minogue used to be on it, Delta Goodrem, who no one will know who that is if you're not already Australian, but she was on Neighbours, and Margot Robbie was once upon a time nominated for a Logie also. Best New Talent, or Most Popular New Talent, which is very exciting. These are all voted positions, by the way. They're not, like, determined by an Australian TV council or anything. And once upon a time... So, in Australian history, Margot Robbie has lost an acting award. And that's not surprising. She's lost Oscars before. But this is a little bit surprising because she lost it to Bindi Irwin. And Bindi Irwin's, like, children's TV show. Which was wild even at the time. I remember we were all sitting there like, how on earth did this happen? How did she lose that? But yeah, if you don't know who Bindi Irwin is, it's Steve Irwin's daughter. And at the time she was about 9 years old. And I will say, Bindi has not been nominated for any Oscars since. So I wouldn't put much stock in the Logies, if I'm being honest. Might be uniquely placed to make that statement. But yes, Margot Robbie once lost an acting award in Australia to Bindi Irwin. I guess the fun fact about the TV show that Bindi Irwin was on, I don't know how this question even started, but this TV show is the reason technically that Steve Irwin died, because he was filming a segment for his daughter's TV show when he died, actually coincidentally very close to where I live. Fun fact. That's not that fun at all. Okay. Let's maybe move on from doom and gloom. 2, would you ever dive back into one-shot versions of Kate and Anthony, like late night or side to side? Would I mean, yes. If I think there was a story there that needed to be told. I think a lot of the time the reasons why I opt for, like, a one-shot version of something rather than, like, a full version is because I'm not entirely sure how, like, a full version would play out, you know. Sometimes I think, like you can't write 15 chapters on, like, the late night AU, you know, like, it's kind of just a one and done thing, to me at least. But I would if I think there was, like, something interesting to be told in that universe, or if I thought, I'd never, like, rule it out. I never rule out going back to any of my universes, honestly, because I can't ever let anything go. Should ask some of my friends what it's like to be in an argument with me. 3 hours later, I'll just be like, and another thing. Like, it's brutal. I think it's the undiagnosed ADHD. But can't stop thinking about it. It's kind of like, you know, when you're sitting in the shower and you're like, wouldn't it have been so good if I'd said that instead? That's the number one reason why can't I shut this fridge? It's not the number one reason why I can't shut the fridge, I'm sure. It's the number one reason why I don't want to, like, at the moment, I don't want to revisit the Bridgertons universe, because I go back and it just feels really like, I don't know, it feels poorly written to me maybe. And there's so many things I would want to change about it now that I now, like, can't really. So I don't love, I don't love going back to some of them, I guess. Particularly ones early on. There's one particular story that I would love to delete off AO3. I just hate seeing it on there. But, you know, that's fine. It's so far back now in my, like, history that it doesn't. I don't really have to look at it that often, so it's fine. If you know, you know, I guess. So, I'd never rule it out, but I just don't think at the moment there's, like, a story that I'm interested in telling. Might acrobat Kate ever be a thing? That Spider-Man kiss scene may have been the cutest thing you've ever written. Maybe a spicy Sunday. The problem is I don't really know that much about acrobatics. I don't really know. I could watch that documentary on Netflix, I guess, about people that are professional mermaids. Like, what a cool job. I wish I had a cool job like that. Like, dentistry is just really not that interesting. I tell you what, like, it is a burden. When I was 17, I was like, yes, what a cool job. And now that I'm gonna be 29 in September. God, when did that happen? But I'm going to be 29 in September, and I'm just like, God, why did I saddle myself with this forever at 17? But, you know, we all make choices, I suppose, don't we? Would it, yeah, I guess I'd maybe revisit it as like again, I think if I was to write that, it would be like a one-off thing. I'm not sure there's like 15 chapters worth of story there to tell without like really vamping it out. Yeah. I don't know. I would never, like I said, I would never say no, but I think for now at least, like I said about that Act 1, it's kind of on the back burner for now at least. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sure I have other questions here on Tumblr. I might go through them. I'm going to have to scroll a little bit. Not that far. There's one, the very next question. You can tell how much attention I've been paying this morning. There's been a lot of takes on what would have happened if Show Kate had never overheard Show Anthony at that ball. Most have Anthony courting Kate, but do you think he would still have courted Edwina anyway since she was named most eligible? Or maybe he would have stayed away from the Sharmas altogether since he and Kate liked each other and didn't have reason not to be together. Okay, I have thought a lot about this. And I think, so had she like exited that ball like a minute later, where do we think they would be? I think they definitely would have had like a little flirt. She would have had no reason to believe he wasn't genuine in any attention that he paid Edwina is the problem. That's the number one problem. The number two problem really comes in how are we assuming then that the way Anthony and Edwina met is the same? Because if it's the same, then we kind of have reason to believe that he would have at least showed Edwina some sort of attention. And by that I mean, like, did he at first not know that Edwina was related to Kate? Because I think still, even if they'd met that second time and it had been a good interaction again, they'd had a little bit of a flirt and like, Anthony still was not interested in pursuing a relationship that had any sort of emotion in it. So I think it would have taken much longer for them to then form an attachment. I think I actually think that perhaps Anthony still would have been like, okay, maybe I could still stick with Edwina, because let's be honest, he doesn't have a lot of options at this point. He's pretty much pissed off just about everyone else, though, to be honest, people still would have entertained him, even with all of his very rude and impertinent questions. People still would have been like, oh, okay, because he's a Viscount and they're very rich. So, you know, it doesn't really signify anything, because when you're rich and a man, you can get away with a whole bunch of things, you know. I mean, I'm not speaking from experience. I'm not a man. But you can get away with a lot of things. So I think people honestly still would have entertained him. But he has sort of taken everyone else out of the running at that point. So I think he still, to a certain point, would have been able to justify, like, well, okay, I could still court her. But I think the moment that it would have flipped would have been because I think their interactions then at the racetrack would have been very different. Obviously, he likely wouldn't have gotten Dorset, whether he paid him or not, we still do not know. That's still on my list of unanswered questions, or whether he just convinced him to do it, we don't know. But he wouldn't have got Dorset to interfere because there would have been no need, you know. And I think at first Kate would have been a little bit confused, so maybe she would have been a little bit like argumentative, but it wouldn't have been to the level that it was, and there obviously wouldn't have been the big reveal that Dorset was there as sort of a ploy, you know, so there wouldn't have been that same sort of animosity. And I think at a certain point Anthony would have realised, this is probably too close and I should call it off. That doesn't mean, I think, that he would have started courting Kate. I think Kate and Edwina still would have been invited to the Aubrey Hall house party. They obviously wouldn't have been brought there early, because the only reason they were there early was to so that they could have like some privacy away from everyone else, which wouldn't have been necessary because he wouldn't have really been courting Edwina. So, you know, or I think at the very latest they could have drawn it out to like when they played Pall Mall, and then Anthony would have been like, no. There definitely would have not been anything else. And I think like, obviously at a certain point then, I think had their interactions never been negative, because we're also assuming that, you know, the two of them could have behaved themselves completely, which is a big call. I think like had their interactions never been negative, then maybe at a certain point Anthony would have just been like, I can't stay away from you, you know. But I think he still would have had like a little bit of a look-see at Edwina anyway. As controversial as that may be. Yeah. Still would have been a little bit of a look-see, but I also don't think like his heart really would have been in it. Because I think even when we see, like even at the races, for example, his attention is not entirely on Edwina ever. Like it's always kind of 3/4 on Kate. So I think like even then, like Edwina still had a little bit of interest in him, but I think he would have needed to call it off a lot sooner for us to avoid the entire catastrophe. The likelihood though, I think, of like Kate ever supporting a courtship between Edwina and Anthony was very slim. Even if she hadn't heard all that other stuff, because she still would have been like, but you flirted with me, you know, like that still would have been in the back of her head. So I don't think she would have been entirely supportive of it, regardless of what happened there. To answer that, how are Vamp Anthony and Kate doing? Look, I really do need to finish writing that. It's like literally got one chapter left, and every week I sit down and I'm like, I am going to write that chapter, and then I don't. I just don't. I wish I knew why. I don't know. Maybe I think because no one really reads that one, much like this Titanic AU. I'm like, no one's really reading this, it's kind of pointless. But you know, it is what it is. Eventually, they're doing good, I think, and eventually we will get to see that on AO3. I did have a question about whether or not I was going to write the modern version of Bruises this year. I don't know if it will be this year. I also think my plan for it is perhaps a lot shorter than a lot of people are expecting. So that makes me a little bit nervous. Where's the blush? That makes me a little bit nervous about writing it, to be honest, because I think like people have expectations for it that is not my intention. Just waiting for the cat to stop scratching at the door. If I let her in, she's gonna like just walk away, you know. You know how cats do that thing where they're like, how dare you keep me out here, and then you let them in and they're like, oh, is this it? Is it? No, I'll just go back outside. I think I have intentions for it that like other people maybe are not expecting, and I don't really want to field people's disappointment, maybe, is the main thing there. I don't really want to do that. I think, like I have a much shorter story in mind than I think people expect. Like to me it would be like 5 chapters. It's not like a huge story. Stop. For me it would be like 3 chapters, and I think other people maybe have slightly sort of bigger expectations for that. I don't know. I just kind of feel like, I'm trying to do something different at the moment, and I want to give a little bit more space from the original story, even though it's been about a year or so since I finished that. I just want to give like a little bit more space, I think, from the original story. And again, I think like people's expectations from it are probably a little bit different. So I haven't. How many tattoos do you have? Do you have a tattoo goal as far as how many you want or which areas you want tattooed, or do you not have an end point? I don't have an end point in mind. When I like got my first tattoo, so I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that all I have? I've got 8. I've got 8 tattoos. So when I first got, this was the first one I got. I've got the left side of my ribs tattooed with the 3 fairy godmothers from Sleeping Beauty. And it's like a sort of watercolorish design. And when I first got that, I said to my mum, like, this is the only tattoo I'm ever going to get. Like, I'm never going to get any other tattoos. And she, like, my mum is not really a big tattoo person. She was like, okay, I guess I can put up with you having one in, like, a small, you know, in a spot that, like, let's be honest, no one's ever going to see it. I've put too much blush on and I look sunburnt. No, that's fine. Again, I'm not really going to leave the house, so it doesn't really matter. I care. The grocery delivery guy is going to be really impressed as I wave to him from inside and he leaves them on my stoop, you know. I don't really have an endpoint in mind, but I got that one and I was like, oh, this will be the only one I ever get. And then I got this one, and I was like, oh, well, it's just one more, and that I'll just have the 2 now. And then I have this one, and and I think it's the kind of thing where the more you have, the more you want them. And I already sort of have plans for another tattoo, and I just got this one about a month ago, maybe. So I've got 8 and counting. My issue with tattoos is that I want to be able to see them all the time. Like, why am I going to pay all of this money for something that I don't even get to see? You know, like if it's on my back, like no one's gonna see that because I'll have clothes on. Like, I just, you know, even like I have this little bee here, and the bee, and he honestly most of the time is covered because I'm at work. Yeah, I would never get a tattoo in a place I can't see it. That's exactly, they're expensive, man. Like, I'm gonna pay all that money for someone else to look at it? No. I would actually really love a sternum tattoo, like, right. But, my sister said no, which I realised sounds like a ridiculous thing. But she said no, and then I was like, well, maybe no, because I'm very suggestive about these kinds of things, you know? It's just who I am as a person. Marketing works so well on me, it's ridiculous. So I haven't done it. That's a lot of highlighter. Again, I'm ready to party. Yeah, I would love other ones. I have some vague ideas for another tattoo, and then I've kind of tricked my sister again. It sounds like I trick her a lot, and sometimes I do, but sometimes she just needs a little bit of a nudge. She's 3 years older than me, and so like I said, I'm going to be 29 in September, and we can't get matching tattoos this year. My sister doesn't have any tattoos. I'm the family disappointment in that respect. So this year, I've wanted us to get matching tattoos for ages, and she has kind of like not really been on board with it. Not because she's not a tattoo person, but because she can't settle on like something that she wants. Do I have a bruise on my arm? I do. Wild. Look at that. I don't know where that came from. So she doesn't have any tattoos, and I have wanted us to get matching tattoos for quite a while. So we obviously can't do it this year for my birthday because she's pregnant. So next year I've said to her that I think it would be really neat for my 30th birthday if we got matching tattoos. So we shall see if I manage to convince her. Stand by. But I have some vague plans. I might be getting a tattoo based off a Taylor Swift lyric, but we will see. Not the actual lyric. I don't think I'm a word tattoo kind of person. Just because I think for me it would be weird, and I don't want people asking me what it means all the time. I don't know why, but people that don't have tattoos, and if you have tattoos you will know this, but people that don't have tattoos are obsessed with what your tattoos mean. And it's kind of like it doesn't actually mean anything. Like, none of them have meanings, or like most of mine don't have any meanings. It's just a cute picture. This is a bee. You know, this is maybe the only one. I've got a little slice of watermelon on my wrist here. This is the only one. So my best friend has she has a matching one to this, and it's a little slice of watermelon. If I told you the joke from when we were 14 years old, you would not find it amusing in any way. But yeah, I've got that with her, and I guess that's one of the only one of mine that actually means something. I've got a time turner from Harry Potter on my right rib cage. And again, that doesn't really mean anything. It's just a really cool design. I got it pre all of the stuff with the author. And now, you know, I don't hate Harry Potter, though I do not agree with the author's, let's call them her political biases. I don't agree with those at all, but that's, you know, this is not what this YouTube channel is about. So I got the tattoo prior to that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I don't regret the tattoo at all. I don't know why I brought it up. I don't regret it, but I regret the connotation that I guess it may have for some people now. But it doesn't mean anything. None of them do. But people that don't have tattoos are like obsessed with your tattoos needing to mean something, and I don't know what that is. I wish I knew, but they don't mean anything, babe. Like, oh, no. Right in my eye there. Yeah, they don't mean anything. Would I get more? Yes, absolutely. Like tomorrow. I have a couple of cartilage piercings. So I have my helix here, my tragus, and I've got my daith pierced on this side. There's a little ring in there. That was the most painful experience of my entire life. I would never do that again. Like, think I blacked out for a second. I would never in my entire life. I got it kind of to help with migraines. I used to get quite a lot of migraines, and it honestly it does help with that. And the guy said as I was leaving, because he was like, oh, that's probably the worst one I've had to do. Apparently my ear cartilage is very thick, and he was like, that's probably the worst that I've had to do in quite some time. Like, in 20 years of being a piercer, he was like, I think that's the worst date I've ever done. And I was like, thank you for telling me that up front and ahead of time. So, and he was like, well, if that doesn't completely, like, cure your migraines, come back and get the other side done. And all I could think was like, no. Like, I think, no, I would get tattooed again tomorrow, but like getting another cartilage piercing, I would have to think like long and hard about that. That's an absolute no from me. I think it hurts probably 10 times worse, and the healing hurts a lot more than like a tattoo does. A tattoo is over in like, the like painful part of the tattoo is obviously while you're sitting and the first time you wash it. I think anyone that has tattoos can agree that like the first time you wash it, you're like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, it's really bad. But after that, it's like it's not bad. Like, yeah. It doesn't like hurt for days afterwards, you know? Yeah. Next question. So, on this topic, tattoo artists usually do other kinds of art as well. In Take a Deep Breath, do Anthony and Ben work in other mediums? Does Anthony draw Kate like one of his French girls? I think they both, like, most tattoo artists have been, you know, have some sort of like more formal training in art for the most part. I think both of them probably work in other mediums. I think Ben probably does a lot of oil paintings. Anthony's probably a sketch guy, I think, or like honestly probably a digital art guy if I was going to put something on him. And I think obviously he's drawn Kate. He is obsessed with her, so yes. I think would be the answer there. Yeah, I think yes. Yeah. He's obsessed with her, so obviously they've probably of my inbox again. Why is this so painful on the app here? If you write the eloping story, will Anthony wake up before Kate left, or would he find her riding in time for no accident to happen? So this, if you've missed that, this was an idea I had. I spoke about talking about? Oh, like what would have happened if Anthony had caught Kate in pre-accident? Because this all stemmed from a conversation of like why I think Kate truly rejected that proposal and like what that proposal said to her, because we can all agree that that was the way he came across in that proposal is obviously not what he meant, but she doesn't know that because neither of them can communicate their feelings in a calm and rational manner. And also both of them are like, well, if she doesn't feel that way, like, I'm not going to say it. And he's like, and she's like, well, if he doesn't feel that way, I'm not going to say it. How humiliating. Like, neither of them want to be, like, embarrassed in front of one another, which is hilarious because they're both so embarrassing all the time. Like, you know, but I think, like, so, and I had said that I had felt, that if he had presented his intentions differently, then I think that scene would have gone really differently as well. If he had presented his intentions and actually been honest about it and been like, look, this is what happened and I know I really fucked this up, but this is how I feel now, then I think she honestly probably would have accepted his proposal, because her major issue is that she feels like he feels obligated to propose to her. That's her issue with this entire thing, is that he's doing it out of a place of obligation. And, you know, obviously that's not true, but we have to think about how this looks to her, you know, like, she hasn't seen this guy in weeks. And she also doesn't know, like, we know that he was out riding in the park for her, but she probably thinks that he was just out riding, you know, and that's something that's not really addressed in the show. It would be interesting to, like, see that little conversation between them, where she realizes that, like, the reason he was able to find her is because, like, he was looking for her. Like, she doesn't even know he's looking for her in that moment. So to her, she's woken up after this coma. All she knows is that, and we honestly don't even know that she heard him before she fell, because there was a lot going on at that point. And it's loud to hear over a horse. Like, I imagine. I don't spend a lot of time around horses because I'm a little bit phobic. If anyone's curious, I'm going to try out this new... It's cute. I'm going to try out... Well, it's not really new. I've had it for a couple of weeks, but I haven't really done anything with it. This Rare Beauty eyeshadow palette, which is, I think, Selena Gomez's makeup brand. But, yeah, we're going to try this out. We'll see. There's some pinks in there. Some golds. I've only used this center one so far, so... He indicated he was looking for her. Oh, okay, that is true. He did. He did indicate he was looking for her, but she still, I guess, doesn't know why. And she probably even wonders if, like, he was going to, like, ask her not to say anything, or, like, you know. I don't know. I don't know what was going on in her head, to be honest. So she, at this point, is kind of like, okay, well, this bitch has just strolled up. And I also think that she feels like this moment happened out of, like, genuine connection. You know, like, she's kind of like, he and I shared a moment of genuine connection. It was really sweet. Well, not sweet, but, like, you know. They shared a moment of genuine connection, of genuine understanding. And then, you know, everything happened. But now he's basically being like, I took something from you, and she kind of feels like it was something they shared, and that's why she's like, no. Other than the obvious awkwardness that would have come with her accepting his proposal at that point, because, like, let's be honest, she still hasn't really had a moment with Edwina to really unpack what's happened, and let's be honest, she didn't get that moment at all in the show. But again, Netflix isn't paying me, they're not paying anyone at the moment, so I shouldn't joke about that, but also, like, how wild. People are like, hey, maybe we deserve to be paid fairly, and Netflix is like, and a lot of people in the entertainment industry are like, I mean, do you though? Like, for your work? Are you sure? Like, I don't get that. I don't get that. Maybe it's like just a climate that we work in. I obviously don't know a lot about the Australian entertainment industry, but, like, occupationally, Australia is very different to some other countries out there. Like, you can't just fire someone here. It's very difficult to fire someone in Australia. They have to get, like, 3 written warnings, and, like, it's a huge thing. Like, you can't just really fire someone. We've got a Fair Work ombudsman for that. You've, like, got to get a certain, very beautiful, thank you, yeah. You've, like, got to get a certain amount of breaks, and, like, if you don't, you can just be like, sorry, I'm not returning to work right now. Like, I'm on my allotted break. And if they don't do that, you just, like, go to Fair Work and they owe you money. Like, you know. But anyway, I've digressed. So Netflix isn't paying me, so I'm not going to fix their series for them. But, like, I kind of think that's darker on one side than the other, I think. So yeah. I mean, she didn't really get that moment at all, but I do believe if he presented himself differently, she would have taken that risk, but she didn't. So I was thinking about a story where, like, and my intention was that he met her, like, at Lady Danbury's, prior to her leaving for this ride. Like, they would have had a moment in the courtyard or something, was my intention. Yeah, that was my intention for that. And I guess that answers that question, and I should stop rambling because we're already 44 minutes into this. Who has the time? Does anyone actually, like, sit here and watch me ramble for an hour and a half? Like, how wild. I don't even listen to half of what I say. Maybe I'll answer this one. I don't think it's specifically a tea in the ton question, but I will answer it here, I think. it's not marked as tea in the Tom, but I'm going to assume it will be good for this, so let's talk about this. So what was my favourite subject to research for a fanfiction? I really enjoy, I mean, we all know I really enjoy my research at this point, but I honestly, genuinely, as we all know, really got into Formula 1 following this, so I think that's probably been my favourite thing. I love learning about all these little things, and I actually kind of know the rules to Formula 1 now, which is kind of wild. I don't think I've ever known the rules. I might be about to ruin this eyeshadow look. Should I even? No, we're not going to use this one. We're going to go to a different palette. I've really enjoyed genuinely learning all the rules about this. Now I'm kind of are there other sports out there that I would have enjoyed? I don't know. I don't know. Sure. I'm going to use this Pat McGrath Labs Mothership Divine Rose 2, which funnily enough, I did not realise this was the same eyeshadow palette, but if you're curious, this is allegedly the same eyeshadow palette that Taylor Swift is using on her Eras tour right now. If I can figure out where I put the end of the string and I can get into it. There we go. This is allegedly the same eyeshadow palette. I did not put two and two together that I had this one until right now. That will tell you how many eyeshadow palettes I have here. Oh, it's cute. Yeah, I get that. I'm going to use this copper tone here, I think. Or maybe, I realised I wasn't showing you at all. This copper tone on this one here. Which are... Oh, I don't have the thing anymore that tells you what the colours are. I must have lost that at some point. It's rude of me. Tell you on the back? No. Okay, well. Sorry, I don't know, you'll have to Google it. So what was I talking about there? Yeah, now I'm are there other sports? Are there other sports that I would be into if I just mayhaps gave them a chance? Probably not, but you know. So yeah, that's not different enough. Yeah, I'm gonna go for this copper. If I, mayhaps gave them a little chance, maybe I would like it. Who knows? Who knows? I also, weirdly at the moment, obviously I'm writing this Titanic AU, I'm really enjoying learning about that. And I'm also really enjoying learning, not so much learning, learning I guess, but learning more about things that happened obviously during wartime. The actual true nitty gritty of how rationing coupons worked. I've been researching that because, as we know, everyone's looking to my fan fiction for correctness. No one is just being well, it's a fan fiction. Everyone's going to look up and be was that an actual date in 1944, Molly? Was that truly a Monday? You know? I know you're all out there. No, yeah, no one really cares, but I do. So I've been really enjoying looking into that. One of my favourite books from childhood, and this is a book recommendation for you if you're looking for something that will make you cry. I have another book that will make you cry in a second, but this one, Goodnight, Mr. Tom, is so good if you want to learn actually about if you want to learn actually kind of about how I guess rural wartime life was but it's about a little boy who goes in the refugee sort of thing. He's a wartime refugee to the country, as they were. They got sent out as billets. And he goes to live with an old man, Mr. Tom, who genuinely, he's lost his son and wife some years ago, and they genuinely form a deep connection. It's such a beautiful story. I cry probably every time I read that book. I'm just in tears. And it was one of my favorite books as a child, and I'm now realizing as I say that, what a dark book for a child. I think I was 7 years old when I read this. It is written as a children's story, but I was 7 years old when I read this book, and as an adult I look back on it and I'm wow, that was actually, there's some really dark topics in there, child abuse, etc. There's some really dark topics in there, and I was just there's a dog. There is a dog. It's a border collie. Its name's Sammy. But it's a really great book if you, yeah. Anyway, I'm enjoying, I always enjoy learning new facts. So yeah. If the Bridgerton characters were anthropomorphic animals, what animals would they be? Oh. Obviously, we know that I describe Anthony as a bird in pretty much everything because I just, like a nervous bird, that's Anthony, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He's a nervous bird. I also think, and this is probably going to be controversial because she's the world's best dog mum, but I honestly think Kate's a cat, man. Yeah, you heard it here first. Like, that kind of, like, I'm going to be very aloof, and even though I actually like you, like, you're probably not going to know about it because I'm going to continue to just roast you forever. She's a cat, man. Like, she's the world's greatest corgi mum, but she's a cat. I'm just adding more eyeshadow colours here because, you know, what else are we going to do while I finish these questions and I feel awkward with my hands? Yeah, she's a cat. See? Anna agrees. She's a cat. She's the world's greatest dog mum, but she's a cat. And honestly, like, I'm a cat too. It's fine. I still think I'm a good dog mum to old Greggy. Was a cross duck. Yeah. He is. He looks like a sassy little duck. This is not me. This is science talking. I did biology at a university level. Like, this is science, guys. You can trust me here. I also think, I always think that Benedict is kind of, and this is going off show Benedict because, book Benedict, like, if you've read some of my older posts, I definitely have my issues with him, and that book in general, but, like, he's a bit of a golden retriever, or at least, like, a Saint Bernard, like a huge, just slobbery dog that you're kind of like, oh, there it is, like, there it is, what a sweetie, you know? So I think that's probably him. I feel like Gregory is just like a little puppy. He's just such a little sweetie. And honestly, let's be honest, Daphne's some sort of deer. Like a white-tailed doe. Bambi caught in the headlights. Like, she doesn't know anything and you kind of like, she's not going about it the best way, but you do kind of want to protect her all the same. Like, it's a weird situation for everyone. Yeah. Yeah. How do you figure out other characters' romance and backstories after Kate and Anthony? I don't know. There's no plan for that. I've said many times that I have no creative process. Comes to me as if a dream. I don't know. Sometimes things just, like, certain situations seem to fit better for the characters, and I think it comes down to the sort of, I suppose, characterizations I've made up for these people in my head. But we're gonna do a silver eyeliner. I just gotta mix it. But yeah, I think that yeah, some situations just seem to fit. Some situations, like, and it mostly comes from, like, what is the setting around that I've done for Kate and Anthony for me, obviously, because I always usually start with them. And then where do I think those characters fit in? Do you think Anthony would have watched all of Bambi? Yes, at a certain point, but he also cries relentlessly. He's definitely traumatized by Bambi, but he's definitely watched it with the younger kids and pretended that he is not traumatized by Bambi, as we all have, you know. I think that, yeah, I usually start, that's not my dog barking, that's someone else's, if you can hear that. There's a dog in the, like, thing behind that is constantly just barking. I assume at nothing, but probably one day they'll get burgled or I'll get burgled and I'll be like, nah. You know, I think that where's my highlighter brush? Why do I not ever keep track of anything in my life? I think, yeah, generally some situations like I think of and I'm like, oh, that's not really a Kate and Anthony situation though. And it might be one of the others, but generally I start with them and then like what feels natural from that, because there we go. Because like I said, you know, I think it's important first to establish like what, there's going to be differences every time you write even the same character in a different situation, because those characters have different life experiences. Greggy has already showed up. I'll pick him up in a second. He's sleeping at my feet. I'll pick him up again at the end to say goodbye. Everyone's life experiences, my life experiences are different from yours, are different from the woman next door to me, you know. We all have different likes, and in a way, like our likes and dislikes and everything, our personality is very much informed by our life experiences. So it's going to be different depending on the life experiences you've had, obviously. And so that can make the character quite different, I think. But yeah, generally I just start and then I'm like, how could these two have met? Like if these two were doing this, and I think part of it comes pretty easily for me because I generally have Sophie and Kate have some sort of relationship either prior or quite soon after, because I just think they would get along really well, you know. In fact, we know in book canon that they do end up getting along quite well. They're some of the closest, like, of the Bridgerton in-laws we see from their interactions, and I think when he was wicked. They have some pretty cute little interactions there. So yeah, generally I have, and then it's kind of just becomes like, how could they have met from that, you know? What's your favourite fandom thing you like to... Oh, honestly, I'm very disconnected from the fandom at large. I know that sounds awful. I try to separate a little bit from it, but I think I just enjoy like the community aspect of like people sharing their ideas most. And I think the reason why I disconnected from that is because, you know, sometimes we have a space where people can't share their ideas and they can't share, like, not critical thought, because that sounds like I'm looking down upon people, but like I think when it gets to a point where like you can't even share a point of view without someone like coming back and saying they just, it's okay for people to disagree, like, you know, that's gonna happen. This isn't, at the end of the day, like I think this isn't such a huge deal and it's not life and death, and maybe I just can separate that a little bit because I deal with difficult decisions a lot, you know, in my line of work. I deal with difficult decisions a lot, and it's easy for me then to separate, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, this is not a big deal. And that's something that's taken me like a lot of practice. I'm pretty open about the fact that I've had, you know, a lot of struggles this year and the last couple of years in general, and I think a lot of that has been me realizing that my life is not really at the point I thought it would be at this point, and trying to reconcile that, which is a really difficult thing to do. But I think like through that you kind of learn like this is not the biggest thing in the world, and if this is the worst thing that's going to happen to you is that you're not entirely happy with the adaptation of one of your favorite books, then like maybe, you know, there are other things going on. I'm not saying that it's like not okay to be disappointed, but I think like at a certain point, there's nothing we can really do about it, and that is disappointing, but like, you know, and I think for a while I sort of disconnected from the fandom space, and I'm still kind of disconnected from it. I'm just kind of doing my own thing. You can come and like hang out if you want, or not, like it doesn't really bother me, you know, I'm still gonna be writing whatever I want at the end of the day. So, yeah, that doesn't really, you can't really, yeah, I don't know if I like this look, but it is what it is. So maybe we'll do a waterline colour to make it look a bit more interesting. I don't know, this has gotten kind of dull. I thought it would be cute. I don't know if I like that Rare Beauty one. It's not that like the colours aren't nice and it's like not nicely pigmented. I'm not sure it's really like me. I tend to go for a lot of bright colours. But, you know, it's a nice eyeshadow palette. Well done, Selena. You know, I'm sure, as with all celebrities and their makeup brands, you're very involved. Newton calling Anthony a harlot shirt. It's really cute, honestly. It turned out really cute, honestly. If you're considering getting a cricket, I say do it. So, yeah, I think there's still definitely aspects of the fandom that I do enjoy. I always enjoy the opportunity, I think, to be creative is what I enjoy most. And obviously I love Kate and Anthony, they're stupid little goobers. So I love sharing my experiences of them, but sometimes it can be difficult. Yeah, I mean, everything can be difficult at times. So. I do have a few more questions, I think, and then I see I have some in the chat that I haven't quite gotten to, so I will try to do this quite quickly. My sister's just sent a picture of her dog. Oh, he's got a mohawk. She's got a golden retriever. Where's the camera? She's got a golden retriever. And he just had surgery on his ear, so he's like kind of bald on one side, and now he's got a little mohawk. He got like cauliflower ear, which is apparently something that dogs can get. So anyway, so we've got some more questions here. You've said the Newtons are based on Gregory. Are Templeton or Balthazar, when they make appearance, based on Lady Supreme? Yes, 100%. Lady Supreme is uninterested in me until, yeah, he's very cute. His name's Fred. She's got 2 dogs actually, but he's always digging in something. He's a disaster, that dog. One time I babysat him, he's like 8 now, and one time I babysat him and I suddenly like looked out into the yard. They're outside dogs, but he was out because he wanted to snoot around and like annoy the neighbours, you know how dogs do. And I looked out into the yard and his like face had swollen, and I was like, I've killed my sister's dog. So I got him to the vet, and he had stuck his nose in a beehive. So he needed like 3 shots of antihistamine to settle this down, because he had decided that that's where his nose needed to be. And then he looked at me as if to be like, oh, woe to me. Nothing so awful has ever happened to another dog, and you caused this, dude. Like, this is entirely on you. There's literally no one else at fault here. Like, you know how dogs look at you as if to be like, oh, woe to me. Like, no, you're entirely to blame for this situation. Like, I'm not going to take on any responsibility here. Like, oh, honestly. But yeah, Lady Supreme is entirely uninterested in my company until she's not. Until she like wants to lay on me late at night, and I'm suspicious that is entirely due to warmth, because it's winter here at the moment, obviously, which you probably can't tell because I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt, you know. But it's I just checked my watch, but I'm not wearing my Apple Watch. It is currently so it's 12:34 p.m. for me, like in the afternoon, obviously. And it's just gone 24 degrees Celsius, and this is like a cool winter's day for us. We're like, how chilly, how beautiful, you know. Winter in Queensland for you. So, yes, Templeton and Balthazar are entirely based on her. Greg thinks that he and her are like best friends. He's like, every time he sees her, he's like, there is my soulmate, there is my best friend. And she just looks at him as if to be like, I wish you were dead. You know, he loves her. He like, every time he sees her, he just like gives her a little kiss on the forehead. Yeah, but she's not really interested in that. Do you intend to watch each episode of season 3 completely through? Yes, I don't. So I know a lot of people, and no shade to these people, I don't care. As I've said, my opinion is my own. But also, as I've said, like, I don't really care what you do. You make your own choices. You're an adult, and I trust you diligently weigh the pros and cons, you know, like. But I will be watching the whole thing, because I don't think you can give like an honest judgment of whether or not you like something just from the scenes that you saw. You know, like, let's go through it. Oh, okay. Should I do a pink or a purple borderline? I think I'm leaning towards the pink. Let's do that. Or I could do like this pastel colour. Yes, I have about 43 different colours of eyeliner. I might do this pastel because that seems too bright. But I did just accuse it of being too boring. Okay. You know what? We're just going to go for it. Like I said, no one's going to see this. So I don't think like you can really give a judgment just from like the 3 scenes or 4 scenes that you decided to watch. That's not a good indication of anything, you know. And for me, I think I want to see what's happening, even if it's not what I want to happen. I've said before, Penelope and Colin, I'm not really interested in their story. If you are, that is amazing, and I love that for you. I personally am not invested in their journey, and I think I'm concerned. I'm concerned that they may be jumping into this when we need more character development to happen first. And there's a reason, I think. And I've said before, I do not think Julia Quinn is a perfect author. No one is. No one is. I think there are obviously a lot of problems with her books, but one thing that she did, I think, execute pretty well is the time jump that happens. I appreciate a time jump because it allows you to have the characters develop it without having to explicitly state it. And like for time to pass and things, we sort of move on from that. We haven't had any of that. We haven't had any of that growth and development that I think, honestly, Colin Penelope need. He's cruel in a way, unless they're going to give me a really good reason why he said that shit about her at her own family's home. Like, that was to like announce that publicly, which again, that does happen in the book, but it's in a very different way. It happens in a situation that he believes to be private between him and his brothers. He has no way of knowing that she would overhear that because he didn't know she was there. To announce it publicly is like, honestly, it's cruel, and I don't think it did him any favors. But I wish that, yeah, I am going to watch the series because I'm interested in where the show is going as a whole. But yeah, I have my concerns about it. I think, you know, there's always concerns to be had about anything, but I will be watching it completely. I don't think I can really judge it. I'm not sure if I'm going to do like season 3 recap videos because I'm not sure what my opinion's going to be. I don't want to commit to something. But I will watch the show in its entirety. My anachronisms would not allow me to watch just random scenes of something at all with no context. I need to know like 150% of the context of everyone's life before I can truly pass judgment. Are there any specific fluffy or spicy Kate and Anthony moments that you could imagine being in season 3? For example, I love the idea of calling back to season 1 and having Kate able to light the stove. Also, Anthony begrudgingly teaching Kate defense. Some intimate care. I think that it's very likely that in the earliest, so in season 1 we had Anthony play this role. In season 2, because Anthony was playing his own role, we had Benedict play this role. But early on, there's always like a little bit of romance. There's always like a little bit of like spice that happens. There's always like a little bit of spice that happens purely to like keep us, you know, keep on keeping on, basically, while I've changed my mind again. Keep us keeping on while the main couple like builds up to where they can take over that role and like become the intimacy that we see. And I think it's very reasonable that it would be Kate and Anthony in this situation. Because whom else would it be? I suppose maybe Violet and her footman that she was eyeing off, but I think it's a bold assumption to assume that we will get any reference to Queen Charlotte at all in season 3 of Bridgerton. Continuity is not their strong suit at this point, but I think, yeah. No, it needs to be darker purple. I think, yeah, it's probably gonna, I think it would be a good idea if they filled that role. Whether or not they will fill that role, I don't know. I would really like to see some, like, gentleness between them, I suppose. And I know that Simone actually did say that she and Johnny had filmed a dancing scene together, which I'm very excited about because I think that'll be very flirty and cute. Or perhaps just a way for them to spy on Francesca, who can say? She's making her debut this year. But I can't see, like, her storyline being that, like, spicy element at this late stage. Or early stage, maybe. Yeah, so I think we'll probably get that from Kate and Angie. Whether it'll be a lot, I don't think it's reasonable to assume. But I would like to see some, like, caretaking between them, obviously. Would you like to, have you ever travelled outside of Australia? So I have, I was not born in Australia. I was actually born in Scotland, and we moved over to Australia when I was about 2. So I have been outside of Australia quite a few times. Mostly, I mean, it's very easy in Australia to travel. I've been to a few places in Europe, but it's very easy in Australia to obviously travel to Asia because we're very close. So I've been to Japan a couple times. I'm supposed to be going next year as well with my friend from high school. That's supposed to be our next trip, but I'm not sure if we're going to do it because this Taylor Swift situation is really costing us a lot of money. Hotels in Sydney for those dates are at, like, now Sydney is Australia's largest city. Hotels are at like 70% capacity already, and they're charging like $500 to $600 a night, which is a lot of money. It's Australian dollars, but still. So it is costing us a lot of money at the moment, so I'm not sure if we're going to go back to Japan, but yeah, I'd love to travel more in Europe, I think. There's a lot of places I want to go. So yeah, happy to take recommendations, I guess. Have you considered writing a modern take on the original story, either the book or the... So, here's my issue with writing a modern take, and I'm not in any way trying to judge people that have done this before before it gets out there that I am. My issue with doing a modern take, the closest I'm ever going to get, I think, is the Bridgerton and Sons universe, and this is the reason why, and this is a personal thing again, but I think that to do like a true adaptation, you obviously have to have something in there between Anthony and Edwina. And I think in modern society, obviously the modern equivalent of courting is dating. And I think obviously dating means something very different now than it did then. There's implications around things that may have happened, and I have an older sister and I would feel very odd about that. And that's, again, just a personal thing, so I don't think I'm ever going to do like a true adaptation in that sense. I'm not really interested in the kind of love triangle that may eventuate from that. As we all know, I tend to stay very far away from that, but that's the reason why, is because I think there's implications about, like, yeah, no judgment, but I would feel weird about it. There are plenty of stories out there like that if you want to read that, but it's not for me, I guess. This is maybe our last question on here, and then I have some in the chat I saw. I should really wrap this up too. How are you holding up without the cricket? Yeah, look, it's rough, babe. When I was like, I'm hardly going to use it for everything. I've got like stickers on everything. Gregory's going to be walking around soon with a sticker on his forehead that says Gregory. Like, I've got nothing left to label, honestly, and I'm feeling a harsh sting of that. I would love to order some more I have some things that I want to make. I've got to make some things for my sister's baby shower. And I just made a little onesie for the baby that was Formula One theme. I made a little Ferrari onesie and it turned out to be, I accidentally got the wrong size of onesie and it's for like a preemie. For, like, it's never going to wear it, but, you know. It is what it is. The thought was there, you know. So yeah, look, it's rough, is what I'm going to say there. Let me put my lip gloss on and then I will, answer some questions from the chat that I saw and did not respond to. And then I'll get Greggy up. Maybe I'll get Greggy up now that I no longer need my hands. Come here, baby. Come here, buddy. Ooh. Oh. Wait. Say hi. Oh, it's hard being a dog, isn't it? Okay. It's hard being like a little pup. Okay. Can I not go any further back than that? Oh, it's going the wrong way now. Okay. I don't know how to do it on this. Maybe I can try on my phone. Okay. I know someone had a question about my advice for starting writing, is that right? Can run through that. I don't really have any major advice, if I'm being honest. But let's see, I'm live right now apparently. Okay, I can see the chat on here. If I'm being honest, that's me, so that's awkward. Okay. Don't worry, I've paused it on my phone so you won't hear it back. Yes. Do I have any advice for people that want to start writing? I don't really have any advice for anyone, but I don't think anyone should follow my advice, even if I had it. But I think my best advice, like when I started writing, I hadn't written since I was in high school, which had been about 10 years. So I think my best advice is just practice really does make perfect, and it gets easier. And I think if you're worried about like your characterization or anything, the first thing I always start with is like 5 things that the character likes, 5 things that they dislike. And I think that just helps see them as a much more rounded character, rather than, I'll get rid of this so I can actually see the chat, because I'm blind. I think that just helps like see them as a rounded person. Yeah. So that, I think, would be my advice for it. Yeah, that would be my advice. Just like start somewhere, I think, is the best advice I have. Just start writing and see what you come up with, you know? Like, it's not, you don't have to even share it with anyone if you're not ready to. That's the important thing. And I think, like, for the most part, I think that generally people are pretty like calm about things that you write, and like the easy thing about it is that there's a lot of anonymity in posting on AO3, and like no one's gonna know it's you, or no one can tie it really to you. And I think that like if you have someone that you want to show them. If not, don't ever, you know, don't until you're comfortable. But at the same time, like, you're never gonna know unless you try. And I think like just start doing it, and you'll find a groove somewhere. Different things different work for different people, and I said a little while ago on my blog that I think the workflow that works best for me is I know that my attention can be short in like periods of high focus, so I know what works best for me, I guess. And that, like, I like to do 30 minutes of like hard writing time, and sometimes I put a timer on just so that I feel that like time pressure to do it. Sometimes I don't, but the time pressure can be helpful. But do like 30 minutes of hard writing and then 30 minutes break, and work out your day like that, and you will be... Do you have concealer application tips? Mine always creases. Oh, isn't that like the worst thing? I think it's not so much in the application. I just completely abandoned what I was talking about to focus on this new question. But I think, yeah, just like find a groove that works for you, and you will like figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. But like just I know it sounds so ridiculous, but like just write something, anything, literally anything. Write a short story about your day. And I think the thing that sometimes we get too bogged down is we want to write this huge grand story, but like start with a short story and have it be over like 30 minutes of time. I wrote a short story once, and this was when I was in high school, but it got a very good grade, and it was literally about a man. It was a science fiction one. We had to write a science fiction short story, and it was the only thing that happened is this man was deciding whether or not to go in to a store. Because I think when you like write about a snapshot first, write about one section in time, and then expand the universe from there. It's really easy once you like get an eye in to do something. But like start simple and start with something that you know. Start with something that you're comfortable with. If you're not someone that's comfortable with writing something that's a little bit spicier, don't write it for now. Write something that you're comfortable with. Concealer application tips. I actually tend to think this is much more in the concealer and much less in like your application of it, because I have this concealer. I've got a couple that I rotate through, and this is, again, I am a huge Pat McGrath fan, but this concealer I'm like not fond of hers. Actually no, it's not that one, it's this one. This Dior one, you can see it's very old. This Dior one, it creases so much. Like no matter what I do, no matter what I put on as a base, it always creases. But I tend to think that with concealer, less is more. You really need probably about half of what you think. Particularly if you're under eye, you need like half of what you think. And then, oh no, something that I thought was helpful is a lot of the time creasing happens because of like oils in your skin. So one, use like I've used this sunscreen, and since I started using this only as my primer, I've had a lot less issues. But so like a good base, but then if you want, put your like a powder on first before your foundation, because that like soaks up the oils in your skin, and sometimes that works as well, but I tend to find it's mostly in the concealer and not really. This Armani one is a nice one. It's also very expensive, unfortunately, but a good concealer that I liked a lot is the one I used first. The Fenty Beauty one is really good. I am shade 120, but the Pro Filter Fenty Beauty one is a great concealer. And it's a lot cheaper than a lot of other brands. It's a great concealer. Yes, okay. Is there anything else I missed in the chat? Is there anything that, like, I can't see the whole chat for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. Is there anything that I've missed? Do you have a personal headcanon for Mary and Edwina after season 2? I think it's very bold to assume that we're going to see Mary and Edwina again. I very much doubt that. Both of them, I believe, were available for filming, but I think it would kind of eat into the story that they're trying to tell now. And I think it's, you know, if we didn't get a lot of Sharma family backstory in Kate's own season, we're not going to get it now. You know, I think we're not going to get anything. My headcanon, I tend to believe, I do not like the idea that Edwina married Prince Friedrich, because I think it undoes a lot of character development that they were trying to have for her. You know, a lot of Edwina's story basically sort of revolves around, and you know, I spoke about this yesterday on my blog, but I feel like Edwina, most of her story is genuinely to do with the fact that, like, Kate has told her this is how it's going to go. She's a very young girl. I don't know if you remember yourself at 18, but I remember me, and she was a bit of an idiot. And I think, like, genuinely she got swept up in the fact, and I think she has led quite a sheltered life to this point, we have to remember as well, like, and I think she got genuinely swept up in the fact that, like, this is the first time someone, like, rich and handsome, and he's paying her a lot of attention, because she's not seeing all of the other stuff that's going on, and I think she got swept up in that. But I think her realization is actually that, like, what Kate said at the beginning of the season is true, and that, like, she doesn't necessarily have to marry someone that's very rich and powerful and handsome to be happy. And I think I would like if her storyline went in that direction. I believe they will still be in England, though I think we're unlikely to see them. The confusing part is going to be, even in, like, the Queen Charlotte show, when we saw Lady Danbury and, like, Kate and Anthony were on their honeymoon, which is where are Mary and Edwina? Like, where are they? Like, where have they gone? Have they also gone on honeymoon? Like, where are they? I don't know. And again, I don't think we're going to get any reference to Queen Charlotte in season 2, but that's how it goes. Yeah, I think they're in England, though. I don't think, yeah, we'll see them at all. If you wrote a meet cute in which Kate and Anthony meet during karaoke, which songs are they singing? And they do they eventually duet before the night is over? Anthony, I have long since believed, is a Taylor Swift girly. He would obviously be singing either Cruel Summer or I Forgot That You Existed. He's a lover girly. I don't know. I don't have any evidence to back this up, obviously, but I do deeply believe it in my soul. I also think he maybe knows all the lyrics to Cardigan. And I think Kate is probably up there doing a Lizzo classic of some kind. Yeah, I think it just feels right for their personalities. Would they duet by the end of the night? I do not think so, purely because I think Anthony would be intimidated by her raw talent. In this AU I've just created, he would be intimidated by her raw talent and he would not approach. But I do think they probably run into each other several weeks in a row, and then eventually that leads to a duet, which would obviously be... What is the song I'm thinking of? Don't Go Breaking My Heart, Elton John, Kiki D. Thanks. I don't actually have any other questions. I say actually as if this hasn't gone on for an hour and a half. It's a really good thing I booked my grocery delivery for much later than I thought. But yeah, I guess you guys all know where to find me. I now actually, my Tumblr can be located at newtonsheffield.com. I have a domain name now, which is very exciting. You can follow us on Instagram. It's just T and the Ton. I never post anything on there though that seems sensible to have an Instagram. Yeah. Did you get that Omega watch before Johnny's biceps told us to? So this actually is not an Omega watch. What is an Omega? So, okay. So this is I had actually ordered it before that thing came out. So this is an Omega, it's actually a Swatch and Omega collaboration. This is the satin one. It's called a moon swatch, and it's a basically like Swatch's replica of the Omega Speedmaster moon watch. So it's not an Omega watch at all, but it has all the branding on it because it's just a collaboration. So it's basically a much cheaper way to look like you're wearing an Omega watch, because I can't afford one of those. Though I do have got a Breitling watch, which if you know anything about watches, like the Breitling watch, there it is, yes. Keep all my watches here. What else do I have? I've got an Apple watch, which is on charge at the moment, and this is a cute one. I forgot I had this. This is a Wonder Woman watch. Yeah. But yes, I had bought this prior to his advert coming out, which was a crazy coincidence. But yeah, it's not actually technically an Omega watch. It is an Omega style watch that has their branding, but it does not have like an Omega mechanism in it. Yeah. Fun fact about the Omega and Swatch collaboration. They actually have, so they have one for every planet, and they actually have some pretty neat ones. I liked this one because it has satin on it. And it's like a very neutral color, but they also have some really bright ones. I think the Pluto one is actually really cool. From memory, it's like white and blue. And the Earth one is really cool as well. It's like a mint green. But I ended up going with this one. So yeah, that's my life. Yeah. So yes, you can follow us. Thanks for joining us today. But you can follow us on Instagram. I'm on Tumblr, Newton Sheffield. And I'm on Archive of Our Own if you want to read some trash Kate Nanting fanfiction, I guess. But yeah, always enjoy these streams. I'm really not sure why. I do want to start like a series where we discuss chapter by chapter the Bridgerton books, because I think that would be really interesting. I just haven't gotten around to doing that in my life yet. But yeah, I would love to do that. That would be very exciting. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Greg's napping, so I'm not going to wake him up. He's napping in the corner. Maybe I'll take a picture of him. It's really cute because his little legs don't even touch the ground when he lays down. Like, they're so little he can't, like... Yeah. But yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm going to try and end this stream properly this time. We shall see if that actually works. I'm assuming yeah. So, okay. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going to try, obviously, and do another one of these probably at the end of August. Because this is technically the August one, so I'll try to do one at the end of August. And I will check in with how Greg and I are doing on our walkathon. It's very exciting. We're starting that tomorrow. So yeah, thank you to everyone who donated on that. I know a few of you did. It's very exciting. We've raised about $300 for guide dogs, which is really exciting. Yeah. So thank you, and thanks for getting ready with me, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.